Now, they understood what he was talking about. He was talking about the manna principle. The manna principle. You remember that the people of Israel were out on the wilderness, and in the morning a small little object by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands would appear on the ground. And it was a high protein, what we now call, or what they called, manna, something sent from God. And as they came out of their tents every morning, they would gather this up. And you know, it was very strange because they couldn't keep it. They couldn't just put it in the fridge. It wouldn't stay. As soon as it was like 8, 10 hours or 24 hours old, it would begin to stink. And they'd have to throw it away. So it is with the blessings of God. You cannot live on yesterday's blessings. You cannot live on what God did yesterday. You have to live on what is going on through the divine presence right now. You see, in your own experience, there is a very real manna on the ground waiting for you to pick it up. And Jesus taught that this very manna law, this same law, was supplying needs at that moment. Now, the people Jesus was speaking to understood the manna principle. They understood that. They were Old Testament people. And they understood it was the principle of the thing that he was talking about. And they knew that it could not be hoarded, but it had to be fresh every day. You and I cannot rely upon old ideas that are far spent long time ago. We have to have new ideas. Day by day the manna fell, oh, to learn my lesson well. These new ideas coming to us. Then he goes on to say, you are forgiving, and that is really means getting rid of our mistakes and our missing the divine mark. Sin is actually missing the mark. Missing the mark. There's a mark for each one of us, and when we miss it, that's called sin. It's interesting that the King James Version calls this debts. You are forgiving our debts. What debt do we have? The only debt we have is to stop doing the missing of the mark. We have a debt to God to stop that. Don't do that anymore. Saw a comedy show where the man kept hitting his thumb with a hammer. Finally saw his wife come out and said, don't do that anymore. And then he puts an interjection in this whole thing. He says, you are forgiving, you're getting rid of you're having us get rid of the debt of missing the mark. He says, and as we forgive others. You know, it's hard enough for us to forgive ourselves. And sometimes it's even harder to forgive others. Here, Jesus reveals the law of action and reaction. You cannot expect to live in unforgiveness. And if you try to escape from the torture of the past negative memories, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. You must forgive. It's not easy to forgive sometimes, but only through the love, the power, and the presence of God are we able to do that. Then he understands head on, he teaches head on a teaching that they had in those days that God would tempt us. It's not any different today. There are still people who think if things go wrong, well, God's just testing us. He said, you are not tempting us. And this was a real slap at the belief that God would tempt people. It was a belief of the theologians of the time that God tempts, or shall we say, tests us, see how we're going to do. Does God know everything? Then why would God test us to see what we're going to do, since God knows everything? But really what God knows about us is our perfection, as His image and His likeness. But so He's not tempting us. So what is He doing? But you are delivering us. The divine action of God is delivering us. It is standing between us and limitation. And limitation is called evil. So God is delivering us at all times from that. Evil, limited thought, which leads to negative situations. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever a man thinks in his heart, he is, says one translation. Then, yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory. He puts the whole thing in a nutshell. And he says, stop missing the mark because you think you have to. Stop that. God is doing this, God is doing that, God is helping us. And then he says, yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Jesus was here teaching the kingdom now principle. We're not waiting for the kingdom. We're not hoping for the kingdom. We're not wanting the kingdom. We think it might be in some future day. Maybe we'll have to die to get it. No. He says, yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Jesus was here teaching this kingdom principle. We're not looking forward to the kingdom, but we are recognizing it as here and now, right now. Health now, supply now, peace now, joy now, not at some distant time, hoping to get it. And then he ends it with a word. He says, forever. Well, God gave me good things, and I have good things, and I don't know how long these are going to last. You know how it is. Well, I don't know how it is at all, because the kingdom, the power, and the glory are forever. Jesus reveals the law of now and forever. God's not an Indian giver. He doesn't give it to us and then take it away and say, whoops, I thought you'd do better, so I just took all the good away from you. There's no reversal, Jesus is saying, to this prayer. There is no reversal to this prayer. When you pray, when you affirm, always end your affirmations with, there is no reversal to this prayer, to this treatment. It does not stop working, and it never will. Every time you treat, every time you pray, every time you affirm, it does something. Once you understand this prayer, you can never be the same again. Once you point out to someone what they really are, then they cannot go back to an old belief. It's impossible. So here we are in the forever, where the prayer ends. This prayer is not to be repeated over and over, but to be understood. To be understood each and every single day. God bless you.